Well, what is up, fam? It's your boy, Jose, with Fish I J with Jose. Welcome back to the channel. It has been a while. Shh, I'm having a conversation with my peoples. Anyways, I know it's been a while, but today I want to get on here and kind of kickstart or re-kickstart up my long-form content. I've been posting a lot of short-form stuff, and today I've decided it is time to kick this thing back up with some long-form content. So every week, my goal is to post longer videos, as I also post a lot of my other fishing content. But today, we're discussing something really important, and that is why I sold my Old Town Sportsman PDL and exchanged it and upgraded to the kayak that you see covered up behind me today. I'm not going to show you what it is. We're going to first talk about why I sold my Old Town Sportsman PDL to get this bad boy. Stay tuned. All right, welcome back, guys. Let me start off by saying this is not a video that is bashing Old Town or dunking on Old Town. I absolutely loved that kayak. Again, I will say I loved that kayak. Ooh, do you see my ghetto cooler stand right there for you guys all to relish in your boys' economic status? Anyways, so everyone knows that, like, I loved my Old Town Sportsman PDL 120. There's not major issues that I had with that kayak. I loved the way that it performed. I loved the way that it pedaled. I loved the pedal drive. I just loved everything about that kayak. Like, honestly, outside of the one reason that I sold it for, I probably would have kept that kayak forever. So this is not a dunk. This is not a negative review. This is not me just bashing Old Town. I would still 100% recommend their kayaks, hands down, to anybody that is looking for a pedal drive kayak. And I will say I have close friends that are sponsored and are actually a part of the pro staff of Old Town. And so I've got nothing bad to say about Old Town, the company, or their kayaks. It really just had to do with a personal preference for me. Okay, so I loved everything about the kayak. I've caught a lot of amazing fish like this one here on that kayak, and I've owned that kayak for like 3 years, so I have a lot of experience with it. Everything about it was great. The one gripe, and not even a gripe, it's just as I gained experience and decided to expand in my fishing capacity and specifically riggability, I began to realize how limited I feel the Old Town Sportsman PDL 120 was for me. Now, I want to be clear that I'm talking about my specific needs, because I know there's going to be people out there that are like, oh, you're crazy. There's so much you can still do with the Old Town Sportsman PDL 120. But as it pertained to me personally, it just started to feel extremely limited. I started to feel like I was trying to figure out how to work with the kayak rather than the kayak working with my needs and what I needed to accomplish as I was fishing and looking to getting into tournaments and all that stuff. So the reason I sold my Old Town Sportsman PDL specifically was its riggability, or what I feel is the lack thereof. Now, I know they have addressed this issue with the PDL 120 Pro, the EPDL 120 Pro and the PDL 120 Pro. They've dealt with this. They've expanded on the gear tracks, which was the main issue with the regular PDL. You only had 2 gear tracks, one on the left and one on the right. If you're a beginner, it's fine, right? Like, you get a small fish finder, you've got rod holders, you've got a crate in the back, and you're good. But as you begin to expand and you start to begin to get into rigging for tournaments and equipping your kayak with all these different accessories to create content, even mounting cameras and all that stuff, you start to realize how limited the PDL felt. You know, once I started to expand on my rigging, The fish finder took up a spot. My phone mount took up a spot. My measuring board, right? Trying to figure out where to place my measuring board would take up more room. And then because the tracks were only in the front, it started to feel like I had to clutter up the front of my kayak, which I personally hate having a cluttered deck. I like having a clear deck. I like to be able to fish easily and to handle fish easily, especially in tournament settings. So having everything cluttered up in the front left and front right, you just began to start losing, I began to start losing space quickly. And so what I ended up finding out is that the only real way to expand on the Old Town Sportsman PDL 120 was to modify it, which for many people, that is not a problem. For me, I think it's an issue. And here's why. Because if you screw up, you're not just screwing up by putting in a hole where it shouldn't be, or messing up a hole. If you end up screwing up enough, you could compromise the hull of the kayak. And if you compromise the hull of the kayak, then you compromised your warranty. And that, to me, for a kayak that's over $2,000, was a big deal. I didn't want to risk that, because if I risk the warranty, then I don't have the money like some of these guys to replace the kayak like that. So, not to mention also the motorization aspect of it, which for those people who, again, you're looking into getting into tournaments, motorization is becoming more important. Forward-facing sonar and having more screens on your kayak, it's not necessarily for me, but just in general, is important. So if that's your thing, the Old Town Sportsman PDL 120, while it is an incredible kayak, is limiting in that aspect. Now, some people would say, oh, well, you could easily put a motor on the Old Town Sportsman PDL 120. But again, you can, you just have to modify and use third-party parts and all these things to be able to do it. Not to mention that if you put a motor on it, they only have one spot to be able to put a motor on it. That's the back left. And that spot was designed for a power pole, and it's offset. So you put a motor on it, and you have all kinds of issues because it's offset. It's not really laid out properly. So steering becomes an issue. I just felt like, again, I was trying to figure out how to make the kayak work for me. And I felt like I was forcing a lot of these things, which started to become more encumbersome for me. Now, that led me to make a decision. I have one or two options. I limit my capabilities, or I upgrade so that I'm able to do what I want to do with the kayak. And so that's what I did. I sold it. Now, I could have gone with the Old Town Sportsman PDL Pro, which is a phenomenal kayak, and again, addressed all the issues with the original PDL 120. But I also wanted to try something different, so I was able to try out the Native Titan X that I borrowed from a friend of mine for a few weeks, and to fish out of that for a few weeks. And that kayak is just insanely good. It is spacious, it's big, it's stable. I mean, that thing is a stable platform. You can fish sitting, you can fish standing, you can move around. It's got the 360 swivel seat, which allows you to, turn and to reach back into your crate easier, and even turn fully 360, which I did many times on that kayak to be able to dig into my Black Pack Pro and all that stuff. Riggability in that kayak is insane. The limits are endless. The possibilities are endless. The pedal drive on the Native Titan X is just butter. In my opinion, I thought it was smoother than my Old Town Sportsman PDL. The one gripe that I had with the Native Titan X and the pedal drive is the way that you lift and put the pedal drive into the water. I just prefer the Old Towns better, man. Like Old Towns, you can lift that thing with one hand, get it out of the water, and just place it and sit it, and it stays there. With the Native Titan X, you actually have to position the propeller properly by pushing down on the little component. I forget what it's called on the actual drive, but you push down, which means you're often sticking your hand into the water, maneuvering the pedal, and making sure the propeller is lined up properly so you can pull it out. Oh, and not to mention, you have to take off the plate first, pull up the drive, and then put the plate back in its place so that the drive sits properly and doesn't go anywhere. I just feel like, man, Native has to figure that aspect out, and they kind of did with the new Native hammer. So shout out to Native. But I thought it was an incredible kayak. I thought it did its job. I thought the riggability was phenomenal. It was definitely an upgrade from the Old Town Sportsman PDL. The one gripe that I have with the Native Titan X is how wet that deck is. I just couldn't get past that. And Old Town, man, they just, with the PDL, that deck was dry, even without scupper plugs. Like, any water that did get into that kayak would immediately just run out of the scupper plugs, and it wouldn't be an issue whatsoever. So that was a negative for me. I like a dry deck. I like a dry platform. And again, track good, stable, everything. But the wetness of the deck just wasn't something that I was feeling with. And I also had other things in mind that I'll share with you as well. So, as I was looking for a kayak to replace my Old Town Sportsman PDL, I was looking for specific things. One, stability. I wanted something that I could just as easily stand in and fish out of with no issues whatsoever. The PDL 120 was just absolutely stable. I loved that kayak. Two, storage, which the PDL had a great amount of storage. And I love that about it as well. It has a giant hatch in the front, and the tank well was huge. It had underseat storage. It had the 2 pockets on the sides. So it had great storage. So I was looking for stability. I'm looking for storage. I wanted something that would have a dry deck, but also I wanted something that was riggable, meaning I could put graphs, I could put forward-facing sonar in the future if I choose to. I have my own things with forward-facing sonar, but I wanted to be able to mount motors. I wanted it to be motorized this time around. I just wanted the rigging possibilities to be endless and easier for me. So as I expand my rig and I start to get into more tournament fishing, which you'll see more in the future, I want to make sure that I have something that I can motorize easily and is riggable. And it has endless possibilities of riggability. So stability, storage, riggability, and quality. Those were the 4 main criteria. And then I also wanted something that I could take tandem. Hint, 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 hint. Something that I could take another person with, my wife, one of my kids. So something that I could stand on, something that I could have a lot of storage in, something that I could rig up easily, motorize, was built with quality, and I can convert to tandem. So let me show you what we have upgraded to moving forward and what you're going to be seeing a lot more content of. Come with me.
Yeah. Pop in, burn it like this, ain't checking my wrist. Third is my shift.
You're looking at the brand new Bonafide XTR 130. Woo-wee. I want you to stay tuned because the next video that's coming out is a full walkthrough at this bad boy. But listen to me, it's about to get lit up in this channel. So make sure you like, comment, subscribe. If you have any questions about this bad boy, leave them in the comments below because I want to be able to cover as much information as I possibly can. We're going to fully rig this thing out to its fullest potential. Listen, I'm grateful for the time that I was able to have with my Old Town Sportsman PDL 120, but I'm really looking forward to this bad boy. See you guys soon.
I make sales, not a buyer, dog. You don't compare.